Alright guys, welcome to one more tutorial. On this one we'll be drawing a vintage badge logo with a cheese icon. Maybe this logo looks too complicated, but believe me, it's not. So let's get started and I will show you how it's done. Let's set our artboard size. The width should be 2400 pixels and the height should be 1400 pixels. Alright, first let's make sure the smart guide is turned on. Then all we need is the pathfinder, align and the stroke. To open them you need to go to Windows and select these commands. Then let's make the fill white and the stroke black. Alright, now we are ready to go. So let's open an ellipse. Align it. Set the stroke to 2 pixels. Select the selection tool. Move the ellipse a bit up. And hold Alt and Shift so you can move it and copy it in a straight line. This will be the top of the cheese and this will be the bottom. So we will need to open a rectangle here so we can connect them. Open a rectangle, but make sure the rectangle is touching with the two circles. When you're done, right click on it, select Arrange and send to back. Now we will open the cheese like it's cut with a knife. To do that, we will open a rectangle. But before I start drawing, I will hit Ctrl plus Y so we can see the outlines a bit better. And now when we draw a rectangle here, the bottom and the top part must touch with the rectangle. Don't worry about the right part. Focus on the left side of the rectangle. So we will zoom it now just to see what we are doing better. Okay, I hope your smart guide is selected, because when they touch, the smart guide will signal you. Now let's check the bottom part. Now let's move it and copy it with holding Shift and Alt. And for this part I will scale it a bit down and do the same thing. Make sure it's touching with the ellipse tool. When you're done, hit Ctrl plus Y so you can leave the outline mode. Select both squares and group them. Click twice on them so you can isolate them. Select the direct selection tool and select the middle lines and pull them a bit up on the right or on the left, however you feel like the cheese should look like. Alright, for me it's perfect like this. So now I will press escape to leave the isolate mode and select all the shapes. Go to the shape builder tool. You should see a net like this. If it is not like this and it's all over the cheese, that means the two squares are not touching with the upper and the bottom part of the cheese. Right, so for me it looks great, and I will fill these lines to make a full cheese. And with the direct selection tool I remove this line. Everything looks great, except I see on the left square a big bump, and I will try to fix that. Probably a bunch of copies, so let me move the upper part and delete all these bumps. Place it back. I will play with these anchor points and pull them down. Okay, looks fine. Now we will start adding shadows. We need one shadow here on the left and one more on the right. Also we will put a shadow on the top, but let's start on the left part of the cheese. Alright, so now we will double click with the selection tool on the left part of the cheese, so it can be isolated. Then with the direct selection tool, we will select the top part, copy it and paste it. This will be our shadow. Move it a bit down. Okay. Remove the fill. The shadow is kind of long, so with the pen tool, we will place an anchor point in the middle of it. And with the selection tool, cut the right part of the shadow and also this anchor point. Now select the width tool and pull it down and up. Okay. We'll pull it down with holding Alt and Shift. Then press Ctrl+D multiple times so we can copy them in the same order. This one is a bit down, I will move it up. Then I will select them all one by one with holding Shift and group them. I will copy them with holding Alt and Shift. Then go to Object, Transform, Reflect. Okay, it's not set to 90%. Set it to 90% so I can flip them. And when you're done, press Escape to leave the isolate mode. Now select the shadow, select the other one with holding Shift, go to Object, then Expand Appearance. Let's select also the rest of the cheese and expand it. With the expanding, we are having no more stroke, only fill. Now I will hit the trim on the Pathfinder. Send the cheese to back so we can see the shadow. We'll separate the stroke from the fill. Let's right click it and group them. Now we can start creating a shadow here. I will select the white top part, go to Object, Path, Offset Path. I'll do a minus offset path. Okay, this looks good. I will copy this one with Alt and holding Shift, move it on the right a bit. I will make the bottom copy black so I can see where the shadow will be. Okay. Looks great. I will select them both and hit the minus front on the Pathfinder. I will copy the shadow with Ctrl+C, then Ctrl+F, shrink it. Instead of doing one more shadow, I will just select this both, group them, move them on the right, clicking O on the keyboard, holding Shift and moving from right to left, I will flip them. Now let's create bunch of holes on the cheese. We can do this with the ellipse tool. I will create ellipse all over the top cheese. You can have a perfect perspective of the shadow. Now shrink it, create one more copy, make this copy white. Let's zoom a bit and play with it. Okay, this looks fine. I will select them both and cut them. I will copy this shadow multiple times and just place it around the top of the cheese. Let's also put a shadow here on the squares, but we will have to use an ellipse to be in a similar perspective as the squares are. let's create a shadow below the cheese. We will create like a spike shape using the pen tool. Alright, connect it, shrink it a bit, hit Ctrl Shift plus left bracket to send it to back. I will just drag it with scaling. I will try to place it exactly on the end point of the cheese. Now copy it with holding out, hit Ctrl plus D, and just place these extra shadows to be perfectly on the cheese. I will select the end anchor point and just move them or scale them to be different. This gives more natural feel of that vintage shadow. Okay, I think they're all too big, so I will select them all and scale them down. Now with the selection tool, select them all and copy them and place them on the right side of the cheese. Okay, I will create one more shadow here. Select it, open a offset path. I'm using a custom shortcut for the offset path. This is not coming with Illustrator. This offset path is annoying to go every time to object path, offset path. So I suggest, if you're using a lot, to create a custom shortcut for it. Right, -3 looks too big, -1 too small, also 2 looks too big, so I'll make it 1.5. Okay, this looks fine. Don't just copy my numbers, because your artboard or illustration size can be different. Just focus on your perspective. Alright, I will just copy this, make this black, select the end anchor point with the selection tool, move it up, move this on the right, select them both and hit -front. The reason I'm constantly zooming and zooming in, so you can see it in a different perspective, and we can see it if it needs more scaling or making thicker or thinner. Okay, doing this to the other side as well. I think we need to delete this part with the eraser tool. Alright, looks perfect. Now let's select the cheese, group it and scale it down so we can have more room for the badge and the text. First, let's create a ribbon with the rectangle tool. Align it, copy it with Ctrl plus C, then Ctrl plus F, and scale it way on the left. Move it a bit down, select the pen tool, and on the middle create a anchor point. With the direct selection tool, I will select this anchor point and move it on the right. I will just move it a little bit down. Okay, here open a rectangle, select them both and hit unite on the pathfinder. Select this shape, open a minus offset path, make this to white. Okay, here you need to open a plus offset path, so this stroke line can touch on each other. Now let's add some shadows. I will use the pen tool again to create a spike. Close it, make this black. Again with holding Alt and Shift, and copy it, then press Ctrl+D multiple times. Now with the pen tool, I will create one more shadow here, so it can look like the top ribbon is dropping on the bottom one. Let's copy one of the spike, reflect them, select the spike and the bottom shape, and arrange it to back. Now place the bottom spike way below, copy it multiple times. I think they're a bit off, so I will select everything and unselect the shape with holding Shift. Now just the spikes are selected, and I will move them a bit up and I will stretch them on the left. Okay, looks perfect. So I will just select these spikes and this part of the shape, copy it, reflect it, and send it to back. Let's add the text. Make sure it's uppercase, because if you're putting on a ribbon, it can be kind of tricky if the lowercase letter have like a tail. I will be using a font called Old Scotch. It's kind of vintage looking, and because we are playing with uppercase, I will make the spacing a bit bigger. I will expand the text, increase it. Okay, so now the ribbon is kind of small. I will move the text a bit, and with the direct selection tool, I will select this half, then click on one of the anchor points and drag it on the right. Okay, I think the text is a bit off. I will move it on the left a bit. Now I will do a shadow effect on the text. I will select the text and do an offset path. Make sure it's set to rounded. Paint the offset path white and copy it and paste it back. And with the keyboard arrows, move it a bit on the right and make those black. I think this side of the ribbons are kinda too long, so I will shrink them a bit. Shrinking and watching this number, okay, 406, and I will try to do similar shrinking here. Doesn't have to be exactly the same. Okay, here 403 is fine. Now let's select the text and the ribbon and group it. Shrink it a bit. Place the cheese on top of the text, so we have the room for the badge, and align them. Okay, for the badge I will be using a polygon. Open one in the middle. With holding Shift, rotate it. I'll send it back with Ctrl Shift plus left bracket. Okay, now I like the cheese to be on top of the badge, so the polygon top spike won't be visible. Now let's put some frames. I will do that with the offset path. I will do a -1 offset path and change it to white. And now a -3 offset path, so the frame can be bigger. And -1 again. Make this black and voila. Okay, I think the cheese is too big. The shadows are touching the frames. And for a logo, nothing should touch with other element. Okay, I think this is perfect. Let's apply effect on the ribbon. Go to Effects, Wrap and Arch. Here you have bunch of effects you can play. You can do flag or race, but I think Arch looks perfect on this logo. I'll just lower it down, but make sure it's set on horizontal, not vertical. Okay, now expand it, pull it a bit down. Alright, perfect. Make the cheese a bit bigger. Okay, Now with the pen tool we will create a shadows on the frames. Same as other shadow, just creating spikes. For a vintage logo, I always use a spike shadows. For example, here when the ribbon is touching the frames, I will create a shadow, like the ribbon is on top of the frame. Also do that for the cheese. And when I see an empty space, I will just fill it up with some spikes. Select them all with holding shift, copy it and go on the right, then pass to the Ctrl+V. Now reflect it and again just place it, and I will just set the position right. Okay, now let's do it on the bottom part as well. Okay, we need one shadow here, but wait, first I will fill up on the bottom part. Okay, again creating two spikes and two more on the left, but I will fill up the space so it can look like the ribbon is falling on the badge. Okay, now we'll put one more in the middle so there won't be an empty space, and I think it looks pretty good. It's like a metallic vintage effect. Alright, now reflect them. Okay, it's a bit off on the right, I will just tune it a bit. Okay, need to use the direct selection tool here. Alright, looks good. Now we can put a tagline below the cheese. I will type premium quality. Okay, here I did a misspell, but because I already made the video and I'm just recording my voice, there is no way I will go back and change this premium quality. Alright, let's add effect. Go to arch upper, so it can looks like it's connecting with the ribbon. Alright, just tune it a bit. Now let's put some stars below the tagline so we can fill up this empty space. One big in the middle and two small ones on the side. Okay, align it. Let's put a line here so we can give that more luxury feel, and again fill up that empty space. Alright, I think it's looking pretty sick. So now just move this a bit. Alright, and perfect. Now on the top of the cheese we can put like a sun rays. All we need to do is with the pen tool, open one vertical line, this thing is too thick, we'll make it thinner. Now let's copy it with holding out and drag it with shift, select them both, go to object, rotate, set this to 50% and copy it. Now just hitting Ctrl+D to create multiple copies, select them all, copy them, Ctrl+C, Ctrl+F, rotate them and scale them down. Select everything, expand them so they won't be stroke, and use the Unite on the Pathfinder. Now place it on the cheese, arrange it to back. Okay, let's do some coloring. I'll do a custom coloring. First start with the cheese. I will choose like more pastel colors, earthly tones, because it's a vintage. Okay, So on the side I will use darker. I will just copy this cheese color and make this darker from the sides. And this can be more yellow. Alright, lighter. Perfect. Here I have some mistake. For the ribbon I will use like orange, red orange color. And on the side I will use the same color, just a bit darker. Okay, now the white offset button is showing up. We need to make it the same as the background. Okay, I will double click on it so I can isolate it. Now with the magic wand I will select only the white color and change it as the background color. Okay, I think the cheese text can be white. So I'll select the cheese text, go to magic wand, the black color, and make it white. But I also made the shadow white as well. So I will just hit Ctrl+Z and select all letters one by one and make them white. Okay, this can be darker orange. Stars also can be darker orange. Oops. Okay. So there we have it. Cheese vintage logo. I hope this logo wasn't too cheesy for you. I also made a lot of sales on Shutterstock with using this logo. Planning to do a video on how to sell stock art. Its website is Shutterstock or iStock. Yeah, this kind of type of logos are pretty good because there's a lot of businesses like burgers or hot dogs, and those businesses do not mind buying stock art. So I'm scanning the logo now just to see how much is visible. I think it's pretty good for a detailed logo. So that was it. If you found this video useful, hit the like button, and if you're up for more tutorials like this one, subscribe to my channel.